This is Eric Hadley with Black Hat Algorithms. Today I'm going to teach you how to code a keylogger in Visual Basic. Basically what this keylogger is going to do is it's going to store the keys that the user types into a string that we're going to call log. And then every so often, I'm going to set it for 30 seconds, it's going to send it to an email account that we make. So you can send it to any email account, your email account, anyone's email account. And it's also going to have a USB spreader on it, so it's going to spread to USBs and to hard drives and all that. And it's also going to enable it to start up with Windows as well. So I'm going to show you these two charts here so you can kind of understand the Windows API we're using. It's a function called getAsyncKeyState. What this function does is when a user hits a key like H right here, it's going to return an integer value of 72. And what we're going to do is pretty much take this 72 value and we're going to put it inside the CHR function, and that's going to return a character, and we're going to add it to our log. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the code and start programming this. I've already made a project. I've added 3 timers to it. So now we're going to jump into the code. We're going to need to import some things in order for this to work. We're going to import system.io because we're going to be using a stream reader, and we're going to be using some drive functions in order to get information about the drives. We're going to be using system.net.mail. This is going to be for our email message and our SMTP client. We're going to be importing Microsoft Win32 because we're going to be using their API. And go ahead and make a class, our class form1. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and declare that function that we're talking about, the API function, the get async key state. Make sure you type this exactly how I type it because it's another function. We're basically grabbing a function from another library, and it takes an integer value and it returns an int value as well. Okay, now we need to this is going to return an integer value, so we need somewhere to store that. So we're going to go ahead and make a variable for that and call it result. Okay. And we're going to need a log in order to store the converted integer of when we pass it through the char. We need to store it to a log. So we're going to make a string variable. Go ahead and set it to empty. Now we're going to go ahead and double click on our form to get the form load event. This is what's going to happen when the form loads up. We're going to set it so the opacity is 0. That pretty much makes the form invisible. We're going to set it so it doesn't show in the taskbar. So we're going to set that property to false. Now we're going to enable all our timers. Now we're going to set the intervals to all our timers. We set this to 1 millisecond so it continuously goes and goes and goes and goes and goes, and we don't miss a key. I'm going to set this to 30,000 milliseconds, which is 30 seconds. I'm setting it for that because when we're done coding this, I'm going to show you that it works. And you guys might want to change that to like 12 hours or 6 hours or something like that. I'm going to set this USB spreader to do it every 5 seconds. Okay. Now with that said, let's go ahead and start coding the timer 1. Now I'm going to bring this up. If you notice, this is 255 here, so we need to make a loop that goes through all this stuff. So we go for I equals 1 to 255. We're going to set our integer value that holds it. We're going to set it to 0. Then we're going to set it to get sync state of I And then we're going to test to see if the result is null. And then we're going to add it to the log string. And make sure you put next I2, because if you don't, it's just going to go through and add all the keys. So now let's go ahead and go to timer 2, and this is going to be our send mail function. So we don't want it to send an empty log if the user is not typing anything. So we're going to go ahead and set that up. So if log length equals 0, then we're going to set the log equal to the user is not using the keyboard at this time. Okay, now we're done with that. Now we're going to do the send. Now we haven't constructed this yet, but we're about to. So private sub send mail. This is going to take a bunch of parameters. First one is going to be host. Private sub. Sorry about that. Host as string. It's going to take a port as integer, and it's going to take let's see, what else does it take? It takes a bunch. Just gotta think for a second. Oh, it takes a username as string, takes a password as string, takes a from address as string, takes a to address as string, takes a body as string, takes a subject as string, and the last thing it takes is an SSL boolean. So bival SSL enabled as boolean. Okay, so let's go ahead and start setting up the properties for this. We're going to make a new message, a mail message, and this mail message in the constructor takes two arguments, and that's the mail address arguments, and in those mail address arguments we're going to pass in the from address and the to address. Let's head off. Now we need to set the properties up for this message. So I'm going to go ahead and do subject, make that equal to the string that we're passing in.